Hi, Ray here. I sent a video out showing you how well a furry windscreen works when you're trying to record video outside and you want to knock down the wind noise. And in that video I promised to make a video showing you how I made my little windscreen very inexpensively, and that's what this video is all about, so we'll get right into it. Here's how to make your cheap an easy windscreen. You can see here I've got two of them. They're kind of two different sizes. Easy to make. You can make whatever size is appropriate for your microphone. Now my particular microphone, I've marked it on this pen. It's really not much wider than this pen, and it goes down about 1.5 inches, and I put a mark there at about the 1.5 inches. That's how deep I want the microphone to be. Here's the fabric that you can buy. I found some at Walmart. Someone else gave me this piece. This is pretty plush. It's pretty thick fur, and I think the thicker or more dense the fur is, the better it probably will do for the microphone. So get yourself a piece of that. The minimum amount you can buy is 1/8 yard. So this costs $1.82 for 1/8 yard, and you get a really long strip of this. This is just a scrap that I had left over. So turn it over and first figure out where is it that you want your depth to be on the microphone. So you can see that you want it to be about that deep. Simply fold that over. Give yourself just a little bit of extra. You can always come back a little bit. So I gave myself just about that much extra, and that's where I'm going to mark it to make my cut right there. Cut it as square as you can. There's really no need to be too exact about this. I don't get too much into measurements on this kind of thing because you can play around with it and always make it a little bit smaller if you need to. So now we have how deep we want it to be, which was that right there. Now we have to figure out how wide do we want it to be. Now my microphone really isn't much thicker than this marker right here, but it's got a little foam head on the top, so I'm going to fold this over and going to give it just a little bit of extra there to make sure that I have enough not only to sew it but to leave it large enough so that it will go over the microphone. So we'll mark that right there. It's about how wide we want it to be. Let's quickly cut that. Okay, this stuff is a mess to work with. So now we know that you're going to fold it down about like that, and then you're going to sew each side so it fits a little bit more securely, about like that. Okay, again, just get it close. Okay, so now you've got your piece cut out in the dimensions that you want. And you notice how really thick this fur is along the side, which is going to make it kind of difficult to sew. So what I do next is I just come along and get some of the fur off of that edge like that. Only takes a second, and it'll make it easier to fold this over and sew it. So do that along both sides. Do it along the top and the bottom. You just don't need all that extra fur where you're going to turn things over and sew. Okay. I can pull all that extra fur off of there. Like I told you, this stuff is messy to work with, but that's okay. Clean it up later. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do, kind of take your fur and kind of push it toward the middle like that so it gets out of the way of the seams. Then you can fold it over to when you want to sew it. Or, well, widthwise that way. So now that we've got that out of the way, I may cut a little bit of this extra length off of here, which you're going to want to do anyway. By the way, at the end you'll see that I cut some of the length off of the fur. So we got a little bit of that fur out of the way. Now it's going to be a little easier for us to work with. All right, next up, we start sewing. Okay, I'll be using a sewing machine. It really doesn't matter. I mean, you can do this by hand. This fabric is really easy to get through with a needle, but you know, a sewing machine does a little bit neater job. So here's what we're going to do. We're just going to run a little stitch on both edges here, like this. And all we're really trying to do here is to keep the fur from coming out and making a big mess all over the place. And this will do it for us. So that's one end. You don't need to watch me do the other end. I'm going to do it and then I'll come back to you. Okay, now we have run a stitch across the bottom, both sides, and what we're going to want to do now is fold it in so the back of the fabric is to the outside, and then we're going to try to run a stitch right down there on both sides. It gets kind of thick here, so you have to be careful working with it. It's difficult to work with. So we'll get that lined up, get that under our foot, and see if we can run that stitch through there. As I said, it's kind of difficult to get it to run down, to run through there. There we go. And we'll want to do that to both sides. I'll do the other side and then come back and show you what the finished product looks like. Okay, so when you're finished sewing, you're going to have something that looks like this. So now all we need to do is turn it right side out again. And this is pretty small, but you know, it's appropriate for my microphone. Now, like I told you, this stuff is a little bit long when you're done with it, so very simply, just take a pair of scissors, start trimming some of that extra length off there, because you just don't need it. And actually, if you have it on there, it'll sometimes come around and get in front of the camera. So after I made my first one, I learned that I just really needed to trim some of these long hairs off of there. So I just trim them off however short you want them. I don't think it's incredibly important, and I don't think it's incredibly important that it's done too neatly. Just do the best you can. And the same thing with sewing. If you haven't sewn before and this is your first time to try it, just go slow, do the best you can. It's a little frustrating at first, but it's a good tool to know how to use. So there you have it, a fuzzy windscreen. I've already tested it. It fits over my microphone as well as the foam cover, and this will do the job for you. Check out the video of the Furry Windscreen test, and you'll see how well it works. It is remarkable. Only cost a couple of dollars, so pretty easy project. So I hope that was helpful. And you've got an idea how to very quickly, easily, and inexpensively make your own furry windscreen or fuzzy windscreen, whatever you want to call it, to record action outside and knock the wind noise down. So here's the little one we created in the video. Fits great over my little edge-to-edge microphone that I keep on my GoPro camera. But as I said, you can use this for any size microphone. So here's a microphone that's used for singing, and if you wanted to play outdoors, there you go. It's the same concept, just different measurements, very inexpensive to make. Like I told you, it cost me $1.82 to buy that fabric at Walmart, and I've made now a couple of windscreens and one even that I can use for a different use outdoors other than for GoPro. So it's a pretty economical way to do things. Hope you enjoyed the video. Hope you learned something. Go out and make yourself a DIY furry windscreen. I think you'll really be happy that you did. Thanks for watching. I appreciate it. Don't forget to subscribe.